Welcome to the Ageless Runner. I'm Ralph. Being older and being a runner are two excellent reasons why you might need more protein than you're getting. Late in my career, about the last 10 or 12 years, my company would send me to the Cleveland Clinic for a physical. It was a great place to go and get a physical, very thorough. One of the things they would do is measure my body composition. It was one of these machines where you stood on your bare feet on a couple electrodes and held a couple electrodes in your hand, and I simply use the body's resistance or capacitance and to give a breakdown of percent water, percent fat, lean muscle mass, and so forth. Well, I think it was my last physical there, right before I retired, they were looking at the results and said, I had lost some muscle mass. Well, how did that happen? Well, after a little discussion with me, they said it was due to my running. I had just started running maybe a little over a year ahead of that time, and all the running I was doing, training and doing a marathon, and all that activity, they said it caused me to lose muscle mass. So they talked to me about doing more strength training. What they did not talk to me about was getting more protein, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So protein is actually considered a macronutrient, which means we need large amounts of it for our bodies to function and survive. We do not store protein in our bodies, unlike fat or water. We retain water and we store fat. So we need to eat and consume large amounts every day. And of course, protein is important for a lot of different functions. Some of it's used in the processes of supplying energy to our body, supplying oxygen to our body. It's used in the creation of antibodies to fight infections. And of course, it's used to repair and build tissue like muscles. Our muscles are protein, so we need to consume protein to maintain those muscles and also if we want to build muscles. So it's such a vital nutrient in our daily lives. Now, there are a couple of ways we can lose muscle mass in our lives. One is just growing older. It's a process called sarcopenia where we lose muscle as we get older. There are some studies that suggest that for non-active adults, we could lose 3 to 5% of our muscle mass per decade. So if we're not active, we're not doing anything, it's really going to accelerate that muscle loss. So activity, of course, helps minimize that, but we're still going to lose that muscle mass. Now, the other way we can lose muscle mass is through extended cardio type exercises. And would be like running, biking, doing a treadmill at the gym. When you do that for long periods of time, our body has these catabolic processes, which means we take complex molecules and break them down to simple molecules. So when we're running for long periods of time, our body breaks down glycogen, can break down fat, can break down muscle mass also, create energy. That's why they talk about cardio being a good fat burning exercise, because our body tends to break down that fat to supply energy. Well, it also does muscle. So the more you're doing cardio, the longer, either per event or over time. Like I was spent a year running a lot of miles, training and getting ready for that trail marathon. So I was using up some of my muscle mass to supply my energy. I wasn't fueling properly. I didn't know anything about it at the time. It probably was a detriment to what I was doing. So we need to be careful of extended cardio exercises, reducing our muscle mass. So we've talked about why protein is important and how we can lose muscle mass. Obviously, the thing to help us minimize loss of muscle mass is getting adequate amounts of protein. Well, how much do you need? Now, here in the United States, we have this recommended daily amount of 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Let me put that into pounds for all my US people. That would be 0.36 grams of protein for every pound of body weight. Now, I'll use my body as an example going throughout here. I weigh about 190 pounds. So if I wanted to get and meet that 0.36 grams per pound of body weight, I would need about 68 grams of protein per day. So how much food is that? Well, 4 ounces of lean chicken breast is about 36 grams. So that's a good source of protein. That's almost half of my 68. And if I had a serving of Greek yogurt is also a very good source of protein. A serving of Greek yogurt, at least that I have, is 3/4 of a cup, and it's roughly 18 grams. So I'm still a little short. I'm not quite up to that 68, but if I had a serving of beans are good for protein. They could be 7 or 8 grams in a serving. A serving of peanuts, that can be 8 to 9, depending on the brand and the type. So eating some chicken, some Greek yogurt, some beans and peanuts will probably get me my 68 grams in a day. That's not a lot of food. Of course, you're going to eat other things. Those other things could have protein in them also. But if I ate those 4 things in those amounts, I would get my 68. Again, that's a bare minimum. A lot of experts say we need more than that. And one way we need more than that is as we get older. As we get older, our bodies do not process protein as well, so we need more protein. The experts recommend that once you're over the age of 55, you should be looking at getting between 0.45 and 0.55 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So again, let me use myself an example. I weigh 190 pounds. If I were just shoot right in the middle of that at 0.5 grams per pound of body weight, I would need 95 grams. So now I did have 68. How do I get that extra 27 grams? Well, I get half a can of tuna. Half a can of tuna has about 21 to 22 grams. That would get me there. And maybe an ounce of cheese. A lot of cheeses are 5 to 6 grams per ounce. So if I added tuna, add a little bit of cheese, I would get that 95. Again, that's not too big of a burden. However, you're a runner and I'm a runner. We're athletic. We're out doing activity. And there's further recommendations on that. Now, it's recommended that for active adults, you could even be a walker, but you're an active adult, you're out trying to be active. There it's recommended to shooting for between 0.55 and 0.9 grams of protein per pound of body weight. And if you're kind of more athletic, the International Association of Athletic Federations recommends that athletes should get between 0.7 and 1.1 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So there's a couple of different ranges there. So I looked at the 0.7 number because that's kind of in the middle of the active adult recommendation and at the low end of the Athletic Federation recommendation. So for me, 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight at 190 pounds is 133 grams. So now my 95 has gone up another 38 grams. Now I'm looking at, well, there's all kinds of things I suppose I could eat. So I did an experiment. I decided to do a 3-week trial where I was going to target and eat 133 grams of protein per day. So how did I do? Well, let me show you the graph here. I kept track of my results. I'm an engineer and I believe data is great. So let me show you the data. So the horizontal axis is days. You'll see 1 through 21. That's the 21 days of the 3 weeks that I did my experiment. The vertical axis is grams of protein per day. And the green line you see in there represents my target, 133 grams per day. And then the blue bars are how much protein I ingested each day. So you can see a lot of days I made it. About 2/3 of the time I got 133 or higher, and about a third of the time I was below my 133. But on average, the average is the red dash line, I was a couple of grams higher than my target 133. Now I know that a 2 gram difference is not statistically significant. I mean, there's errors in measurement. I did measure things. I would weigh my food or measure it out in measuring cups. So I felt pretty good about that, but sometimes you have to estimate, especially if you go out to eat. And of course, how accurate is the information from the manufacturer. So I don't think that 2 grams is significant, but I think it does tell me that I met my goal of eating roughly 133 grams per day on average for 3 weeks. So what are some of my observations having done this for 3 weeks? The first is I felt like I was full most of the time. I felt like sometimes I was overfull, like I was eating all day just to try and get that protein in. So I found that a little bit uncomfortable. I would say from that standpoint, the 133 may be too high for me. It just is too much food, made me feel uncomfortable. But how did it impact my run? So again, 3 weeks is not a real long time. I did a couple of long runs, did of course quite a few short runs, and for example, I did a short run yesterday where I ran a lot of it in the threshold zone. That's zone 4. And when you look, and I'll show you the results from my Garmin, it shows I spent over half my time in zone 4. And today I feel no ill effects. In other words, I don't feel overly tired. I feel pretty good. I would not have known I ran yesterday. And in a couple of long runs I did, I experienced no muscle soreness afterwards. Sometimes I do, not always, but sometimes I do. And I didn't seem to be quite as tired the next day. So I think maybe getting an extra protein may have helped a little bit in recovery. Now again, 3 weeks isn't real long, and some of it could be, psychological, where, hey, I know I'm eating more protein, therefore I should feel better. But I would say I felt a little better, recovered a little quicker by getting more amounts of protein. So as I said, I can't continue 133 grams of protein per day. It's just too much eating for me. It's just too much. I feel like I'm, going to explode sometimes. Now, I did find one challenge in getting 133. I decided and I added protein supplements. By that I mean I had whey protein powder. A scoop of that was like 22 grams of protein. I would drink one of those every day. And I also had some protein bars. I found some protein bars that have 20 grams of protein. I would eat one of those a day. So it wasn't all like I was eating meat or beans all day or eating a bunch of cheese. I used those protein supplements, but I needed those to get up to that 133 grams. I didn't feel like I could do it all through food without overeating and feeling even fuller than I did already. So those are good tools for you to use. Should you want more protein, don't want to eat more food, get a protein powder, get a protein bar and use those. So what am I going to do going forward? So after my research and my experiment, I do recognize I need more protein, but 0.7 grams per pound is probably too high for me. So I was looking at the low end, or kind of the low end of the active adult area, which, remember, the active adults were recommended to get between 0.55 and 0.9 grams. If I were to shoot in that low end, maybe target 110 grams per day, that's about 0.57. So that's kind of my goal. I think it's something I can sustain. If you look at my graph there, I met that every day. So I had no problems meeting 110 grams per day. That's well above what older adults should have. So I think that would do me very well to get that 110 grams a day. But if I do a long run, I think for a long run, then for the couple days after that, I'm going to bump it up to that 133 grams, that 0.7 grams per pound, just to help with the recovery. So 110 every day, and then 133 on the days following a long run, just to help my body recover and repair the muscles and the tissue that need repaired. Thanks so much for watching the video. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please scroll down and hit that like icon. Those likes really help my channel. And if you're new here, well, welcome. I'd love to have you stick around. Please click that subscribe icon also. Thanks again and happy running.